May I please invite Mr. Ramakrishna.S, Chief Business Development, Products and Marketing, Tata Power Solar. Ramakrishna, sir, please.
Good afternoon, Amit. Thanks very much. Good afternoon to everyone who's there in this call. I was just going through the previous presentation, and so much of interesting information that has been shared. And I'm sure each one of you is richer with solar knowledge. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, what I would do right now is try and see the kind of information that you picked up, the technical aspects that Sailesh spoke to you about. How is it that you're going to transfer that into meaningful benefits and solutions to the consumer? It reminds me of what the voice of cricket, Harsha Bhogle, said in one of his talks. I think at IIM Ahmedabad. He said, talent is important, but what you do with the talent is far, far more important. And I'll try and stress upon that point. So we picked up a lot of information about various aspects of solar. How do we convert that into customer benefits? What kind of solutions that we can look at? How do we look at segmentation? I'll try and focus on that aspect of the solar business. And as a combination, everything would mean customer centricity. Very clearly, if you say that putting customer at the center, it's really to understand the needs and make some meaningful analysis of that. It reminds me of what my professor in my business school said, Professor E.G. Parmeshwaran. He made this very interesting point that communication is not just about speaking. That was impossible. I was in some conversation with him. He says communication is not about just speaking. It's a process. It says it's about speaking. It's about someone listening to it and someone understanding it. And as a good marketing guy, as a good brand guy, it's about making use of what has been understood, analyze it, make a good solution of it, and ensure that a consumer need is met. It's very, very crucial to ensure that you listen to what the customer says. And therefore, this entire process of communication becomes the root. So let's go through a small journey right now in understanding that entire process before we really get into the details of what segments we have in solar and how we can really attack them. Communication, we all know, is the key in marketing, in brand, in understanding customer needs, for customer centricity. We all know that communication is very, very important. But what we need to understand is that many a time we have needs which are explicit in nature. So you do a research, market research, and then you listen to what the customers say, and then you could modify your products, improve your products or services, and take care of that need. But what also happens, and it's happened quite a few times in the recent past, is that there are unsaid needs of the customers. That's something which is very implicit. And that's where people are using big data, data analytics to try and get that out. And the beauty of picking up data, which is implicit, is that it generally gives rise to some innovation. It gives rise to something which is exponential in nature. And we will see a few examples of that. I'd like to spend the next 15 odd minutes in understanding a few cases and try to just relate them to this whole idea of customer centricity, and then move on to solar. Some classic examples that we saw of explicit needs. I don't know how many in this group would have known that once upon a time a washing machine was actually a manual washing machine. People would wash it in a particular tub, then they manually pick it up and then place it in another tub where there is a rinsing, and it was quite a tedious job. So research suggested that consumers found that to be very inconvenient. Initially it was good, but subsequently they found that to be very inconvenient, and that's when we had the brain sticking and the emergence of an automatic machine. I'm not too sure whether we have too many of the manual washing machines right now. So right now we know the way the clothes happen. You just put them in the washing machine, switch it on, and after the process is over, after 30 or 40 minutes, and then the entire clothes are washed. So that's one evolution that has happened on explicit needs. The emergence of Ariel was a great story in itself. There was research done where almost 1,000 consumers were met, and actually washing habits were seen. And people found that it was a very tedious thing where they take that soap and then keep washing it on the floor. And that's when Ariel came up with this wonder product where very little powder was required. And the campaign that came was the campaign that happened at that time was very clear. It said, "Khub tikya gisni padegi." Okay. The mother-in-law would say, "Khub tikya gisni padegi," and then there was this smart lady who shows up and says, "Nahi Maji, thoda sa Ariel," and then after that, then they would show some clean clothes or etc. But the whole thing is about convenience. The other one, from a conventional lunchbox, the dabbawalas, the Mumbai dabbawalas were very, very popular. The way they really relooked at logistics and ensured that lunch boxes reach the doorstep is a case study which I'm told even the Harvard Business School looks at. So these are some examples of explicit needs. As you move ahead in your journey in the solar, in the renewable industry, you will have a lot of explicit needs, and you will also come across certain implicit needs. When I speak of implicit needs, let's look at how life has been changing. E-commerce, we all know, I don't think there's anyone who wouldn't have used an e-commerce platform for whatever, be it Swiggy or Big Basket, Ola, Amazon, Uber, whatever it is. But just imagine people would go to a store, buy things, and from there, the evolution is so complete and it's happened. So how do you think, no one would have even thought of such a thing existing, but how do you think the e-commerce platform started at all? Because the need that came out was that consumers wanted to buy a lot of things, but they did not have time. They did not have the convenience to travel, and in some places they did not have the space to park. Multiple issues came up in the process of going to a retail store to buy. But then that's where this was no one said that they want to sit at home on the system and buy, but they said this is my problem. And that's when the latent need was identified, and we have the e-commerce as a huge industry that has come up. And I can't think of anyone who would think of something else when it comes to a cab other than a Uber or Ola or anything like that. So that's how e-commerce came up. The camera phone is a very interesting thing. I don't know how many would have owned a camera. Possibly few do right now as well, but they mostly are the professional photographers. But most of us who use a camera for a normal work in terms of picturizing any of these personal functions, etc., a phone was different, and the camera was different as well. And that's where a need. That's where a need came up. It was cumbersome, etc., etc., all that. And then the marriage between the phone and the camera happened. And I know of a brand which advertised their entire phone basis the megapixel in their camera. That's how important camera became as part of the phone. You would see in many programs where there are these cameras being promoted, it would actually end with someone saying, okay, it gives the best selfie. So that's how important camera has become for a phone. And the two married, the camera and the phone married, and this was a latent need that came out. OTT as a platform, we all know how popular it is right now. Thanks to COVID, I think most of us don't go to the cinema halls too frequently these days. But this whole process has started much before COVID, the OTT process, and people are there sitting at home. Again, the convenience that they looked at is one, they are sitting at home, two, at their convenience of time, and three, at their choice of movies. Now, these were the three needs that came up of the consumers, which a traditional approach couldn't meet. And that's where that latent need was identified, and this revolution of the OTT platforms have come up. So if you summarize, whether it is explicitly mentioned or it is latent, the consumer needs basically get classified into three categories. Category one is economics. So consumers are looking at what kind of economic benefit do I get with the new solution, or what is my economic need from an existing situation. The second is convenience. From where I am today, what is the convenience that I can achieve? Classic example, as we just spoke of, is from going to a cinema hall to sitting at home, from going on specific times to defining your own times, from having fixed shows to having movies of your choice. So convenience. And the third thing, which plays a very, very important role in a human psychology, is the emotion. How emotion plays in understanding the need or the benefit. So basically, these are the three categories. You think of any solution under the sun, in some form or fashion, it will fall in one of these three categories. So let's look at some interesting case studies. My request to everyone is just don't go too much by the brand or anything. And this session is not to promote any brand, but it's to really promote the concept, right? So once you identified and you have once you identified a need, and then you worked on it, you analyzed it, you came up with a product, you came up with a service. What is critical after that is how do you communicate the benefit? At the end of the day, the consumer, the customer wants to understand what's in it for me, which need of mine is met. And if there is a strong correlation between the two, then your brand or your product is bound to do well. Let's look at a small video, and I'll pause and share some interesting things about this.
In this beautiful world, green grass, blue skies. In this beautiful world, you and I, winding lanes as streams go by. You and I, beautiful world. You and I in this beautiful world.
So interesting. This Hutch is a mobile brand. Now later Vodafone took over that brand. The key benefit here, the unmet need at that point in time was consumers had a mobile phone and they had serious issues of call drops. So the network was not available wherever the customer wanted it. So people understood that, worked on setting up towers, etc., all of that. But the way they communicated is that wherever you go, our network follows, meaning that your unmet need of poor coverage is taken care of. Very, very successful campaign during its time in early 2000. Many of us would have seen this. After looking at this, one will wonder what has this got to do with tea? But a very interesting campaign. Please go through this.
आप सो क्यों रहे? आप सो क्यों नहीं है? अब चाय पीजिए, हाँ? चाय पी के तो चाय के पास। आपका प्रॉब्लम क्या है? What's the problem? अरे ये भी सो रहे हैं, सो रहे हैं चाय पिलाओ प्लीज। क्या चाय लगा रखा है? चाय। अरे ये भी सो रहे हैं।
आज छुट्टी का दिन है, हम लोग पिक्चर देखने आए हैं।
सबको चाय पिलाओ। Wake up time.
I am not sleeping, okay?
इलेक्शन के दिन अगर आप वोट नहीं कर रहे हो तो आप सो रहे हो। जागोरी.com पे जाइए, वोटिंग के लिए रजिस्टर कीजिए।
अगर आप सुनेंगे तो ये देश कैसे जागेगा? टाटा टी।
It's a very, very powerful message. It's about saying that yes, people know that people relate tea to freshness when they wake up, etc. All of that. But here they went far beyond that, and they spoke of awakening of the conscious. They spoke of being socially responsible. They spoke of adults who can vote, should go and vote and decide their destiny. So it's a very, very powerful message that Tata Tea came up with. So let's now come down to some very interesting thing more closer home for solar for homes, and we'll discuss about this after you have a look at it.
आज तुम इतनी जल्दी कैसे?
I thought of surprising you.
बड़े खुश लग रहे हो। Wow, Jatin, this is amazing. Thank you. But recently तुमने मुझे ये गिफ्ट की और अब ये नेकलेस। पैसे पेड़ पर उगते हैं क्या?
नहीं जानती, हमारी छत पर जब टाटा पावर सोलर हमारे इलेक्ट्रिसिटी के पैसे बचाएगा, तुम्हारे लिए से गिफ्ट आएगा।
ओह, तो ये गिफ्ट मेरे समझदार पति ने नहीं, टाटा पावर सोलर ने दिया है।
अच्छा जी।
जी।
अधिक जानकारी के लिए 5667 पर सोलर आपके शहर का नाम SMS करें या हमारे टोल फ्री नंबर 1-800-419-8777 पर संपर्क करें।
Takes care of the first aspect that I spoke of, economics. It is all about savings. It said that if you have a rooftop, it's an idle space, you generate electricity. Once you generate electricity, there will be a huge savings on your bill, up to 50,000 rupees per annum. And the communication was making it interesting on what you can do extra with the 50,000. But the key message there is that it takes care of your economic need. And that's how this campaign did very well. Now, we spoke of the changing needs and various other industries. Now, there have been green shoots as far as the changing trends in solar industry also have happened. Initially, it was fairly broad-based. People would look at, not just things, large corporates would look at it. One, it says reduce high energy bills, then have some benefits in the balance sheet, accelerated depreciation benefit, and have earn credits on carbon footprints. So by and large, these are the large benefits. But what is unsaid in this slide is that there is also the commercial aspect of it, where the industrial tariff was significantly higher. The cost of generating solar was high, and the cost, at the same time, the cost of power for the industrial units was also very high. So therefore, the delta made good business sense. And therefore, initially, you had only the large organizations, corporates that went in for solar. But the whole equation was very clearly established. One, it's about convenience, that you can generate your power at any time. And two, it gives a lot of financial benefit. And third, you are seen as someone who is in one with the environment, the green environment. But as time passed by, clearly the small businesses looked at similar needs and said, hang on, this is for me as well. And they looked at these benefits and how it suits them. It really was, it's a brilliant study that how each segment looks at the same benefit so very differently. At the surface, it could mean that you are just reducing the cost. But once you get deeper into the segment, you would understand that they are looking for something really, really specific. And in my view, that is the key to customer centricity. As a start point, understanding the customer's core need and meeting that. Let's look at some interesting case studies. Again, from a segment standpoint. As we said earlier, it was all about your commercial and SMEs who were looking at it. But then that slowly moved. Then it went into far more sharp-focused segmentation. Cold storage was one segment. Education was another segment. Now, in the next slide, I will talk about how both of them looked at this segment very differently. Then a carport came out as a segment which no one could think of earlier. People had their car park space. Organizations had their car park space. It was idle. Cars were kept in the open, and suddenly this need came up of generating more power. More space was required, and when one was looking for more space, they saw the car parking area as one of the options, and a carport came up as a solution. Then we had the individual residential houses having a rooftop solar, and it was limited to that, but then that slowly shifted to large residential complexes also going in for the rooftop solar, and each looking at specific benefits. I'm not going to go to individual segment, but I think you must have understood the drift of this shift in from being a very generic requirement getting to specifics to the segment. One of the interesting things is what we call as BIPV, or built-in photovoltaic. Some customers do not have enough rooftop space. Also have the need for the building to be aesthetically good. So the solution for that is a built-in photovoltaic, where you have this embedded into the building itself. It's a slightly more expensive solution, but it's clearly took care of the requirement of that specific customer. We spoke of individual houses. Here on the left we have individual houses, and here on the right we have individual a group of houses, the villas that we look at. Let's now go peel the onion a little more, go a bit deeper. While each segment has got a specific win point, I will focus on, for want of time, I'll focus on 3 segments and look at why really very important aspect of cold storage is the cooling, the air conditioning. Almost about 40% of the segment is 40% of this is from electricity itself. Now, what happened is the cold storage had the rooftop solar, and that's how the customers looked at it. One, it generated electricity, reduced cost, and everything generic that we looked at till now. But what they in turn looked at is that because of the rooftop there, it cooled the system and therefore increased the efficiency of their air conditioning, which was the core of their business. So that was something which attracted them as an add-on in this solution. The slow rise in cold chamber temperature due to reflection of sunlight by the solar panels. The second segment is the education institution. I'm sure we have a few students as well here today in this webinar. The education institution had a very specific requirement. Their entire load is during the class hours, and that's when you have the peak sun. That also coincides with the peak generation of the load, and that in turn also reduces the cost. So the timing here was critical for the solar rooftop solution. In addition, again, to the convenience of having renewable power at their beck and call, reduction in their electricity bills, and also being one with the greener planet. So they saw considerable savings at the time that they wanted to. Carport, I think, is getting to be so very popular in most of the large organizations. Also in airport, in Cochin Airport, actually, there is a huge carport. A very interesting thing that came up is one, the organization generated more power, reduced bills. That's obvious. Second is their space was well utilized. It sort of created a shade for the cars, and the employees were so happy that in the evening when they take the car out, it was far cooler than when it was placed in the open air. Win-win situation. And more importantly, while doing this, organizations are seen as encouraging renewable energy, and therefore they get their own brownie points in their business. I want to just move out of this and share an anecdote which proved how important behaviors of organizations are. There was this international client who was wanting to negotiate with us for a deal, and during the negotiations, they said that they wanted to visit one of our sites and then come back for a negotiation. We were all fine, and we organized a visit to one of our project sites. So they spent a whole day there and then came back in the night. And we thought it's going to be a late, long night for negotiations. And we were quite surprised that we hardly spent about half an hour or 1 hour over dinner just close the deal. And the key was, they said that if you as an organization took care of the laborers who are working there by having a separate labor colony, by giving them good potable water, RO water, and keeping a clean, giving clean toilets for them. If you can take care of the community that way, we are sure that we are dealing with the right organization. It was an eye-opener for us. We did that because it was core to our values, but it really turned out to be beneficial from a business standpoint, because the customers saw value in our behavior. Similarly, many organizations look at their encouraging renewable energy as a sign of a very responsible organization. And I'm told many organizations did get a lot of benefit out of that. So with changing needs from the consumer, you have huge technology changes. On the left, what you see are the traditional approaches which we would have seen in any of the rooftops that are there. That's changing, and changing really fast. The one that you have on top here is what we call as a floating solar. Now, there are a lot of dams that are flowing in many parts of the country. So the top of the dam is open space. So there are more and more projects that are coming up where you have a solar plant which is on the dam on water, which is what we call as a floating solar. The BIPV is what I explained to you, and so did I explained to you about the carport. The carport on the bottom, that's the picture of the Cochin International Airport. What you see on the right is something very interesting. On the top, in any of these housing complexes or resorts or hotels, you have some sitting space that is there, which is generally in the open. And during the daytime, no one goes and sits there because of the extreme sun that is there. So again, it's an innovation. You just over the sit out, you create a complete solution. It gives the shade to that place. There's greater utilization of that place, and in turn, you also generate energy. And when you generate energy, you again go back to the very basic benefits of cost, convenience, and emotion. The one below is the one in the middle is a very interesting one. It's a tree solar. So again, when you have when you have pressure for space, how is it in that same space you can generate more solar power? So it's like a tree. You have a base which is hinged onto the ground, and on top you have multiple panels, and you generate power. Interesting innovation. The one on the bottom, I think, is my personal favorite because when you shift it from individual houses, then you move to complexes, RWAs. But even when you go to an RWA, you have a limitation. You might have a few hundreds of apartments, but you have limited space. So even if you maximize the usage of that space, the benefits that you get are real, but limited. If you divide it per house, there would be a reduction, possibly to the tune of 5 or 10% in your monthly cost. But the solution here is very interesting because all RWAs have got their own balcony. And what this says is that you have a panel, you just attach it to your balcony and you start generating solar power. And this is, I believe, a brilliant innovation to take care of individual houses, and doing very well taken, at least from the research that we've conducted. Consumer finance is what I believe which is going to change the trajectory of the solar business. I just want to pause and go back to an example which is outside solar, the automobile industries. when a car was purchased, or when a scooter was purchased, or when a bike was purchased, or even when an auto was purchased, the requirement was one would go to a showroom, have a look at that, and pay the money upfront, either through loan or savings, etc., and take the vehicle back home. First book and then wait for the vehicle and then take it back home. So the relationship was very clear: upfront and take the vehicle. Because of which the volumes were limited, because paying that much of money upfront was not within the reach of many people. Then came the finance aspect, and in a Maruti showroom earlier, when we would go to a Maruti showroom, have a look at the car and take the car back. But today, if you go to a Maruti showroom or to any automobile showroom, you would have a slew of finance options, people sitting there, table, chair, offering you the solutions and signing up across the table and giving you the solution. So that's how important finance was. And after that, the jump in the business was almost 10 times. And that's how simple it made automobile purchase. Similar is the revolution that's it's happening right now as we speak in the solar space as well, giving huge benefits to initially the large customers because of whatever guarantees, but that's slowly moving, and it's moving to individual residential owners as well. Apart from giving the benefits of what a financing scheme could give, like in any other product, it also it insures you right now. It insures you from burglary, physical damage, calamity. So it's a complete solution. Now, if you really look at it, keep expanding the whole thing. From traditional power, you move to renewable power. From renewable power, you looked at multiple segments. From multiple segments, looked at multiple solutions. From multiple solutions, you looked at finance options as well. So life is becoming easier and easier for us to own the solution. And as a result, in all the three areas of economics, convenience, and in terms of emotion, it is helping us. Whenever we talk of convenience, the benefit that solar gives you is your control in generating power. Okay, Atmanirbhar. That's a term we all use so frequently these days, or hear so frequently these days. Atmanirbhar of generating power, and that's the convenience aspect of going solar. Obviously, when the volumes are going up, the technology changes and makes it far more convenient for you to take care of these volumes. On the left is a typical a site visit that would have happened, a person physically going there, having a look at the roof, doing a lot of studies about it, taking the meter, etc., all of that. That's changed, and changed really fast. There are accurate 3D modeling solutions right now. You just need to give your address of the roof. It is integrated with Google Maps. So then with the Google Map, we actually arrive at that particular address. Then there is a 3D modeling of the solution that is done. There is a precise shadow analysis that is done at what time of the day, how much of shadow happens on the roof, and thereby giving the exact output that it would give. It's as simple as that. If one gives their address today, and in a few hours someone would have done a complete study of it and tell you how much you will save in a month, in a year, and over 25 years. Earlier, and the entire change is complete from someone going there, like it happened on the left side of this picture, to you have drone-based surveys where there is literally no human intervention. So much is the change in technology that has happened, and this is purely to take care of the huge volumes that we are experiencing. At the end of the day, you're doing all of this, but what's important is what is your customer saying and what is the benefit that the customer perceives. What I'm going to do is spend some time in looking at yeah, you have something to say?
Yeah, Rama sir, we are almost done with the time. If you could just huddle up a little.
Sure. So I think what we can do is just have a look at the voice of the customer and then open it up for any questions. Right?
Solar energy, clean energy. Solar energy, clean energy. Solar energy.
ਅਸੀਂ ਸੋਲਰ ਲਵਾਉਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਤਾਂ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਡਾ ਬਿਜਲੀ ਦਾ ਬਿੱਲ ਕਾਫੀ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਘੱਟ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸੋਲਰ ਲਾਇਆ ਤਾਂ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਿ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਵੇਅਰ ਹੋਵੇ ਕਿ ਸੋਲਰ ਲੱਗਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਘਰਾਂ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਲੱਗਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਅੱਛੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਸੋਲਰ ਲਵਾਇਆ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਦਾ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟ ਵੀ ਕਾਫੀ ਮਿਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਬਿਜਲੀ ਦੇ ਬਿੱਲ ਕਾਫੀ ਡ੍ਰੌਪ ਕਰ ਗਏ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ
ਪਰਸਨਲੀ ਮੈਂ ਟਾਟਾ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਉਂ ਚੁਣਿਆ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਟਾਟਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਦੇਰ ਤੋਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ and they are making very good quality products and reliability wise they are good.
My 3 kilowatt solar unit is generating about 300 units per month in summers. But it is generating less power in the winter. If I take average, I am getting about 3,600 units per year from 3 kilowatt. It is consistent and I am satisfied with this. This is a good saving.
Earlier, there was this, thought that solar panels can be used only for storing electricity in batteries. But then I learned that, the Tata Solar people are providing a grid net metering facility. So by which you can actually, whatever electricity you make, you can actually put back into the grid and it is measured by this net meter. And by way of doing that, you can actually, you only have to pay the difference between what you consume and what you generate.
We installed this 5 kilowatt system about 2 years back and producing approximately 5,000 units in a year, which is helping in reducing my electricity bill.
Let us understand how solar system works for your benefit. The electricity generated using solar panels is converted by using inverters that are connected directly to the public electricity supply grid using net meter. It is basically a meter that records the energy produced by solar system and consumed by the household simultaneously. When the solar system is producing less energy than you're currently using, the net meter runs forward. And when the solar system is producing more energy than you are currently using, the surplus goes back to the grid. For example, the electricity consumption of a household is 750 units in a month, and the solar system has generated 300 units in the same period. The electricity bill that you will get will be for 450 units, a direct saving of 40% in electricity expenditure.
ये सोलर पावर प्लांट हमने टाटा सोलर से लिया है टाटा सोलर वालों को हमने अप्रोच किया था क्योंकि टाटा एक बहुत ट्रस्टेड ब्रांड है इंडिया का एंड वी बिलीव इन द प्रोडक्ट दैट दे गिव अस ਮੇਰੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਲਾਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਹਰੇਕ ਘਰ ਦੀ ਛੱਤ ਉੱਤੇ ਸੋਲਰ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਣੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦਾ ਪੋਲੂਸ਼ਨ ਘੱਟ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬਿੱਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਬੜਾ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟ ਮਿਲੇਗਾ
To be, I think that's the key. He says, in my view, everyone should go in for solar and because of which there will be benefit for the country. Thanks very much. Any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Ram sir, for presenting it so aesthetically. It was actually a visual treat with a lot of information. We're honored to have you and your time.